All right, so guys, a UN judge was just found guilty last week of forcing a woman to work as a slave in the UK. We'll be talking about this because this is a matter that has attracted international remarks. But I'm also sure a lot of you are worried about Margaret Nduta Macharia's story. Maybe by the time we get to air this, she will either be executed or there will be mercy upon her from the government of Vietnam. That is something that we will be touching on in a bit. But let's first go to our first story, where this UN Criminal Tribunal judge, who also happens to be a High Court judge in Uganda, her name is Lydia Mugambe, was just found guilty of forcing a young woman to work for her as a slave. They are saying that Lydia Mugambe, as we said, who is a High Court judge also in Uganda, was studying for a law PhD at the University of Oxford. She conspired with Ugandan Deputy High Commissioner George Muregwa to arrange for the young woman to come to work in the UK. And they're saying the High Commissioner sponsored the woman's entry to the UK. So what are we looking at here? We are looking at a situation where this UN judge has been found guilty of forcing a young woman who she says she also worked with in Uganda. And a lot of people are saying this young woman is also her niece. So what Lydia did is that the same person she was working with in Uganda, she brought this same person to work in the UK, but she worked as a maid. That is actually the claim. She enslaved this person to work as a maid. So this young woman is taking care of the children, and also she's taking care of the household chores. And she's been found now guilty of facilitating travel with a view to exploit. That is one of the crimes that they are charging her with. They are also charging her with another crime, aiding and abetting illegal immigration. They are also charging her with forcing someone to work and also conspiracy to intimidate a witness. I'm going to play you a video. This is Lydia being arrested, and also let's get to hear when they are reading her Miranda rights, her talking about the fact that she has immunity, etc. etc. Let's listen in so that we can also be able to take it from there.
So unfortunately, I'm going to have to now arrest you on suspicion of keeping somebody in slavery and servitude under the Modern Slavery Act. So you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention my question, something which later on in court,
Officer,
anything you do say may be used as evidence. All right. Sorry?
I am a judge in my country. I even have immunity. I am not a criminal.
You've got immunity in this country?
Yes. I have a diplomatic passport.
You're a diplomat?
Yes.
So we'll need to see that then.
Yes.
And then we'll need to speak to the embassy if you are a diplomat.
I came here as a student. I don't need to work for me. I didn't come with her. She asked me because she has worked at my home before. She asked me.
Right, so that's the body cam footage where they are showing Lydia telling the police, you know, I even have immunity. I did not ask her to come with me. She asked to come and work with me. So she's first admitting that, of course, I know this person you guys are talking about, and I've worked with her in Uganda. And also in the court proceedings, she said that she treated this person with so much love and care. And if she did that in Uganda, there was no reason for her to do otherwise in the UK. But now the UK government is saying that Lydia used her status. When we talk about status, we are talking about her being the UN Criminal Tribunal judge. We are talking about her being a High Court judge in Uganda. Of course, this is a very high profile woman. This is a diplomatic, this is someone with a diplomatic passport. So definitely a high profile individual. But they are saying that this particular judge used her status in the society to force this woman to work for her, and even prevented this young woman from getting employment, you know. So there are a lot of accusations here, and also given the credentials this woman has, as we've said, this is a judge, of course, UN judge, High Court judge in Uganda. We are talking about a Columbia University Institute fellow who studied human rights, and people are like, what irony, right? This is quite an irony where you've studied in one of the big universities, matters human rights, and here you are enslaving a young woman and protecting her. and preventing her, from even seeking opportunities outside because you brought her in. You remember the Deputy High Commissioner we spoke about, John Muregwa, who arranged all this, and they used the commission to be able to bring this particular young woman in. They are now saying that this person has left, he's nowhere to be found. This David Muregwa, he's nowhere to be found. Obviously, if he has left, he might be running away from, being in the same place or getting the same judgment as Lydia did. But also one of the things that people are pointing out is the fact that during this whole engagement with the police, where they are reading her the Miranda rights, it's basically what they tell you before they arrest you. I think you guys have also seen it in movies where if someone is about to get arrested, I'm not sure if they do that in Kenya. Honestly, I'm not sure if they have time to read you your rights. But if you've seen it in movies, someone will definitely say, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So as you can see, Lydia there, they are reading her this Miranda rights, and she says, I have immunity here. I am a diplomat. And all those things come to play during this hearing, where people are saying, again, she lied even about having immunity in the UK. And also a point to note is that any immunity they say she might have enjoyed as a UN judge was waived by the Office of the United Nations Secretary General. So she definitely has no immunity right now. And one of the things that you might realize is that UK is going to take these matters seriously. But we have to talk about this toxic culture, especially in an African setup where you have someone, I don't know if you guys have gone through this in your homes, or have you seen this happening in our African setup, where you have a cousin somewhere and your parents will bring her in, but she does not get, or he does not get, to enjoy the privileges that you guys have as a family. Theirs is to do the maid work. You do the cleaning, you do the cooking. Yes, we are family by blood, but you don't get to enjoy these privileges, right? And they are allegations, that this particular person, lady, is Lydia's niece from her poor sister. So they are saying this is someone who knew what she was doing. She brought in this person to be able to exploit her. And this is something that happens in a lot of African setups where, as I said, you get to have a family member working for you as long as you guys can be able to provide them with food, shelter, etc., then it's a go. This is not something that people even talk about. It's actually not an issue in majority of African households. So the irony is, we as Africans, we talk a lot about modern day slavery, even when we have our Kenyans being mistreated in places like Saudi Arabia. We will come here and we'll talk about modern day slavery. But what we don't address is when it happens within our homes, Africans, modern day slaveries by Africans towards their fellow Africans, brothers and sisters. This is something that we don't talk about. So it's now emerging that this is a conversation worth having. This is a conversation that people should actually have in broad daylight. And as we said, UK is taking such matters as seriously. Are we? Or do you see an issue, or is there no issue at all? Let me read a couple of comments from some of the people who reacted to this on social media. We have someone, Peter said, this is a very tricky situation considering from where I come from in Africa, some relatives, if not even friends, would just want to stay with you at your place for shelter and food in the name of babysitting. This is normal in every setup out there. The maid just took advantage of the situation. And also another comment where someone said, I don't think the maid was exploited. She just took advantage of the situation at the expense of her employer. There are people who are sympathizing, of course, with Lydia. Also, I think when they were the court proceedings, she can be seen crying, and she says, you can't just take lies. This is too much. You can't just take lies. We worked so hard for our careers. So she's looking at herself as a woman who has worked so hard for her career, only her downfall to be a crime against someone she knows and someone they are saying she exploited. But I would love to hear your views on the same. Do you think that the maid was exploited? Do you think this is a setup? Lydia was set up by maybe someone? Because obviously, as I said, UK is going to take this matter seriously. I think slavery was abolished in England in 1833. So this is not something that they are going to play with. And even when we've been around UK doing a couple of shows, what we hear is even affording a nanny is so expensive. Like, it's actually so expensive, and the paperwork that comes in place before you can even say I have someone working for me, etc., it's a lot. So let me know what your views are, but let me read you one comment here from this person who says UK takes slavery very serious. Enslaving someone deliberately, not even diplomatic immunity can save anyone from prosecution. UK law protects anyone in her territory from enslavement. As a former judge, she should have known England abolished slavery in 1833, what we were saying, and also her being a judge and her speaking too much during her Miranda rights reading and her contradicting herself. People are like, you know what, for your credentials, this is actually not something that you should have done. You should have just, you should have just kept quiet. You should have go with the proceedings in a court of law. You are a judge, so you should have known better. But it's 2025. We are talking about modern day slavery, and in instances where it's from one African to another, then of course it becomes a more serious matter that we Africans need to start talking about. But we are talking about UK and taking their laws very seriously. Another country that seems not to joke with its law, it's Vietnam. I know a lot of you have been following the story of Margaret Nduta Macharia, and this is a story that has been broadcasted in so many platforms, even across the country. And I just want to read you what a family member says happened, because I know we have a lot of versions as to what happened, but allow me to read you what one of her cousins says happened to Nduta, so that we can be able to analyze this. I think for me, the fact that right now, even as we are filming this, we don't have any feedback on whether the talks between the Foreign Affairs, I know there are talks between the Foreign Affairs Office and the Vietnam government, whether they worked or not. Maybe by the time we get to read this, because I know time is of the essence, she might have been executed, or I don't know where we will be by the time you get to watch this. But let me just read you what the cousin says happened. So the cousin's name is Samuel Kamunyu. They've been leaving these messages across social media platforms, urging people to come for help. But this is what he said. I'm reaching out to you because my family is in deep pain and we are running out of time. We just found out that my cousin, Margaret Nduta Macharia, has been sentenced to death in Vietnam, and she only has 5 days left before execution. So that was last week, right? This nightmare started in 2024 when Margaret secured a job in the Middle East through an agent in Nairobi. She was supposed to fly via Ethiopian Airlines from JKIA to Addis Ababa, then to Hamad Airport, Qatar. But when she got to Ethiopia, she met someone who was supposed to travel with her. This person told her there was a delay and handed her a bag to carry to her destination. Margaret is a class 8 dropout, and this was her first time at an airport. She didn't understand what was happening. Suddenly, her ticket was changed to Vietnam, and when she arrived there, she was arrested. The bag she had been given in Ethiopia had 2 kg of cocaine. Since then, she has been in prison, and we had no idea where she was all this time. For more than a year, we've been searching for her in the wrong countries, only to find out this Sunday that she has been sentenced to death, and now we only have 5 days to do something before they execute an innocent young girl who was tricked by human traffickers. As a family, we have no connections in government. We have tried going to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other offices, but nothing is moving. We are helpless. That's why I'm asking for your help. We need this story to reach the right people, the government. So this is something that was being shared last week, and this is why this case gained momentum, and also that explains why the country is getting to hear this for the very first time, And now I'm looking at this story, and let's just go back a little bit, where they are saying this is Nduta's first time in an airport. This is the first time she's traveling. Her final destination was going to be Qatar, but all of a sudden during transit, she's transiting through Ethiopia, Hamad International Airport, and someone she was supposed to travel with, confused her and told her there's a delay, but bebahi. That's just how I'm imagining it. I don't know how you guys are imagining it, but in that same instance, she doesn't go to Qatar. She goes to Vietnam. And this is where I think you can see in this video playing on your screen, there is where she is right there. And they have these drugs, they are checking these drugs. There is also the screening image where the drugs was spotted. So she finds herself, in Vietnam. That's one version of the story. However, the other version of the story is that Nduta knew where she was going. She knew she was going to Vietnam, and she received 167K just to deliver the parcel. So some would be like, yeah, she didn't know where she was going. The other version says she knew what she was going to do. But then there's also this element that this is her first time. I think I was watching a couple of videos during the weekend of her family, and it's clear this woman comes from a very humble background. I think the breaking part is seeing her mother cry, her sisters, just wanting to listen, to just speaking so that anyone who can help her listens. And it's not easy when you hear your family member is going to be executed, but also Kenyans are asking questions. And as I said, this is a conversation that has received mixed reactions. There are people who are very empathetic towards her, but then there are people who are saying, you know what, why should we? Let me read you something from Shola Ad. Shola is a very she has great posts on X, and she really engages with the audience, and she asked, can anyone give us 2 reasons as to why we should defend Margaret Nduta? She was carrying over 2 kgs of drugs. She was paid 167K to deliver the drugs. Those drugs would have ruined families in Vietnam and Laos, and unlike Kenya, the law is working in Vietnam. So make us understand. So as I said, different versions of the story. So that is Shola asking that question. But then let me also play you a video here by Babu Owino, who is also who came in and spoke about this and asked the government to try and intervene. This obviously, the way people are imagining it, this is a call from one president to another. Ruto calling the Vietnam president and being like, hey, I know you have one of my citizens there, and I know you guys are about to execute her, but what can we do so that this doesn't happen? And she pays for her crime in her home country instead of a foreign country. So let's listen to Babu kidogo so that we can continue.
Thank you very much, fellow Kenyans. I want to take this opportunity to ask and to request the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, to assist this lady called Margaret Nduta, who is supposed to be hanged tomorrow in Vietnam. This lady did no crime. This is a lady who was at the wrong place in the wrong time. This is a lady who was misused, used, and abused. This is a lady who was used to transport drugs. We should not lose a Kenyan, Mr. President. You need to act with speed. You need to help Margaret Nduta. Margaret Nduta should not be hanged tomorrow. And I know that you can take your phone, you can call the Vietnam government, and we need not to lose this lady. We as Kenyans, we need to unite behind this lady because she's one of our own. Even if it is exchanging one of the cabinet secretaries who is corrupt in this government with this lady, let us do so.
You can hear Babu saying, you know, Mr. President, we know you can do this, you can make that phone call. And definitely so many people are siding with Babu. I don't think anyone wants to see Margaret executed. And people are like, you know, let her come and serve her penalty in her home country. And we are talking about a lot of drugs here. These are 2 kgs of drugs we are talking about. I was actually looking it up, and the Vietnam law is very strict on drugs. So if you are actually found trafficking over 600 grams of certain drugs, this could obviously lead to a death penalty. So here we are talking about 600 grams, over 600 grams of drugs, right? Specific drugs. So these are the cocaine's, hard drugs, of course. And then you have Margaret here, who has 2 kgs of drugs. I was actually just checking out the street value of 2 kgs of cocaine, and that's almost 30 million Kenya shillings. So she had almost 30 million Kenya shillings worth of drugs. You get what I'm saying? And the law in Vietnam is very clear. If we find you or we catch you with this amount of drugs, this attracts a death penalty. But also people are asking, if, let's say, hypothetically speaking, she took the 167K to deliver this parcel, meaning there are 3 people here. There's Margaret in the middle, there's the person that sent her, and there's the person that was going to receive the parcel. So where are all these other 3 people? Where is the person that sent her, the person that was going to receive? Why do we only have Margaret at the center of this, you know? And also another developing conversation in this is, how well do you take care of your luggage, and whose luggage should you even carry in an airport? That's why people are saying wrap your luggages. Make sure you don't let anyone pack your bag, you know, because if they arrest you, they are going to ask you simple questions. Did you pack your bag by yourself? No? Who helped you? So you say, if it's you na kuna drugs, you are going to answer for the person, because drugs are in your suitcase. So I love that people are now being very cautious on how to handle your luggage. Be with your luggage at all times, because at the end of the day, someone will do something with your luggage and you have no idea, and you will try to trace the steps looking backward, and you won't even catch the moment someone dropped something in your luggage. But now, if the narrative that she knew what she was doing, and she knew she was going to deliver this somewhere, then who was she going to deliver it to? And who sent her? These are some of the questions people are asking. But also, I think there's that whole scenario of Margaret is a Kenyan citizen, and we should not have a Kenyan citizen being executed in a foreign country. So she can be brought back to her country. She can face this crime in her country. I don't know how this is going to play out. There are a lot of mixed emotions when it comes to this case. There's this humble family that you're looking at and you are like, oh my goodness, how could this happen to one of them? Then there's this side where you are looking at the people in Vietnam and you are like, if these drugs landed there, these drugs would have damaged so many people. And I get the feel, especially from families who have gone through, who have seen their members go through this drug abuse, who have lost their family members to drugs, those people who know someone that overdosed and died. This is a very, very sensitive conversation, but I would love to hear your views on the same. I know this can happen both ways. We can go with her version. She was set up well and good, but I've also sat down with other women who have given me their stories and confessed to me and told me, Lynn, the money I was getting from trafficking these drugs, hizi story mnasemanga za jaba, you know, the money I was getting from trafficking these drugs is more than the money I was getting working as a lecturer. I believe in my previous workplace, Tuko, I did cover this story of this woman who is a lecturer in a local university here in Kenya. And she was like, Lynn, I knew what I was doing. And the money was good than what I receive working as a lecturer in this country. Where do we draw the line between greed and humble backgrounds. I don't know. And if you believe that Margaret was set up, what do you think might happen? So many people have come out and they are praying for her. They are praying for her family. And I really will keep, just following just to see how this unveils. And also another thing that is coming up is the death penalty. Given that people are witnessing how strict laws can be in places like Vietnam, where they even allow death penalty, someone would ask, is that the reason why sometimes even these people in government will definitely mess up? Because they know this is not something that can catch up with them. People are asking, should we introduce death penalty back to Kenya? Is death penalty a violation of someone's human rights and existence? I don't know. So much going on around this conversation, and I would love to hear your views on the same. You can leave me your feedback on the comment section. As I said, Margaret's is a developing story, so maybe by the time you get to even watch this, the worst might have happened, or we might be receiving news that the Vietnam government has extended mercy, or there are talks between Vietnam, as you saw the Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary, Coril Singao. He said last night that he had a phone conversation with Vietnam's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Nguyen Hang, where he conveyed the anxiety of Kenyans over the impending execution of Margaret Nduta, and formally requested a stay at execution to allow diplomatic negotiations between the two tourists. And we also know we have a lot of Kenyans that have faced this from other foreign countries. Is it time to negotiate for their release as well, right? Let me know what your views are on the comment section. As I said, it's a very mixed conversation. People have different views here and there, and I would love to know what you personally, your views are on the same, right? And also what your views are in regards to Lydia, the judge we spoke about earlier, and is it time for us to start having these conversations, modern day slaveries by Africans towards their fellow Africans? Let me know on the comment section. My name is Lynn. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.